Welcome to Life Stories, real voices, raw moments, and the lessons that shape who we are. Today's story is about sacrifice, betrayal, and the quiet strength it takes to walk away from the people you love when they've stopped loving you back. It's a journey from being called the lazy one to building a life worth living on your own terms. If you've ever been taken for granted or felt invisible in your own family, this one's for you. Subscribe to our channel and let's begin today's story. I still remember the cold bite of gravel beneath my boots that March evening in Bloomington. It was Logan's graduation party, March 31st, 2020. He had just finished law school, top of his class, and was already lined up for some prestigious job in Chicago. The community center buzzed with the sound of glasses clinking, laughter bouncing off the walls, people clapping him on the back. I stood outside the entrance, clutching a six-pack like a peace offering, dressed in my best flannel shirt, the one without holes. I was 26 years old, carrying a decade of exhaustion, pride, and unspoken sacrifice on my shoulders, and somewhere deep inside, I still held onto this childish hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would say thank you. Instead, Logan greeted me with that smirk of his. "Got a special seat for you," he said, leading me past the tables, through the crowd, out to the alley behind the building. And there it was, a plastic chair next to the dumpster, with a sign taped to the back in black marker, "The Lazy One." They all thought it was funny. Logan's friends, our parents. One guy even clapped Logan on the back like he'd just delivered the punchline of the year. My face burned. I stood there, six-pack dangling in one hand, the laughter cutting deeper than any insult ever had. I wanted to scream, to smash the bottles, to grab my brother by his designer tie and make him understand. But I didn't. I stood still, let them have their joke. A decade earlier, I'd been 17, a high school junior with oil on my hands and dreams of opening a garage with my name on it. Then the factory in our town shut down. Mom and Dad lost their jobs within weeks of each other. Logan was just a kid, and someone had to keep the lights on, the fridge stocked, and him in school. So, I dropped out. I took any job I could, hauling lumber, patching up rusted pickups, working night shifts that left my back screaming and my fingers raw. I didn't complain. I didn't ask for thanks. Every dollar I earned went to groceries, rent, and later to Logan's tuition. When he got into that fancy school up north, I picked up double shifts, skipped meals, slept in my truck. I told myself it would be worth it, because I believed in him. At the party, I tried to shake it off. I walked back inside and found our parents by the punch bowl, cheeks flushed from cheap wine. "What was that about?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Mom giggled, like it was nothing. "Oh, Jake, don't be so serious. It's just a joke." Dad nodded, sipping from his cup. "Kid's proud of himself. Let him have a little fun." Fun. 10 years of my life had been reduced to a joke taped to a chair, and my family, the people I bled myself dry for, were laughing along with everyone else. I walked out before the music ended, sat in my truck, staring at the dash. There was a check in my glove box, 1300, meant to cover their electric bill. I'd been sending money like that every month since Logan moved out, even though he had a job lined up. It was just what I did. I was the quiet support beam in a house no one even noticed was standing. But that sign, the lazy one, it dug into something inside me, something I'd buried long ago. I pulled out my phone, opened a tab I'd bookmarked months ago but never clicked. A trade school in Indianapolis, auto mechanics program. Night class is starting next week. I enrolled. Just like that. Before I could second guess it, before the guilt crept back in. Then I tore up the check, ripped it right down the middle, and let the pieces fall like dead leaves onto the floor mat. That night, I drove back to my apartment, a one-room rental above a laundromat that smelled like detergent and damp walls. I cracked open a beer, sat on the edge of my mattress, and just breathed. They called me lazy. But they didn't see the nights I didn't sleep, the mornings I went hungry, the years I gave up. Not anymore. I was done being their mule, done being the ghost in their success story. Tomorrow, I'd start building something for me this time. And I'd be damned if anyone ever called me lazy again. The first Monday after I tore up that check, I walked into trade school with my head held high and a toolbox in hand. It had been years since I stepped into any sort of classroom, but this felt right. The building smelled like oil and ambition. The hum of compressors, the clang of tools, the buzz of conversation, it was like music to me. There was this guy named Walt, grizzled mechanic, probably in his 50s, buzz cut, a permanent grease stain on his collar. He looked me over and muttered, "You've turned a wrench before." "Yeah," I said, "more times than I can count, just never for myself." He gave a grunt that passed for approval, and that was the start of something I didn't know I needed: respect. By Friday, I was working part-time at a garage Walt recommended. Elbows deep in busted transmissions and squealing belts, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years: alive. My apartment still looked like a storage closet with a bed in it peeling paint, a rattling fridge, and a single flickering light bulb in the kitchen. But I didn't care. I'd stopped sending money home, and with that came freedom. I bought my own tools, paid my tuition, ate decent food for once. At night, I'd sit at my wobbly table and sketch. Not just simple repairs, real designs. Custom frames, sleek intakes, clean lines and possibilities. Dreams I'd locked away when I was 17. My hands would move fast across napkins and scraps of paper while the sound of the fridge filled the silence. And still they called. It started with MOM. "Jake, the power bill's due. You haven't sent anything this month." I leaned against a wall, staring at the cracked plaster. "Not this time, MOM. I'm Dan." She gasped like I'd struck her. "After all we've been through, you're abandoning us?" "No," I said, jaw tight. "I carried you for 10 years. You'll have to figure it out now." I hung up before her tears could start. Then Dad called, slurred and sharp. "You owe us, Jake. We raised you." I laughed bitterly. "Yeah, and I raised you back." I blocked his number. Logan stayed silent, probably too busy updating his followers on social media, flashing smiles in his suit while the rest of us scraped by. The only peace I had was in the shop. Walt kept me focused. He didn't care about my past, just the work I put in. One day, he saw me sketching during lunch, peered over my shoulder at a rough design for a lightweight exhaust system and said, "You got a head for this. Don't waste it." That stuck with me. No one had called me smart in a long time, not since before I quit school. 2 weeks after the party, MOM showed up at the garage. Hair a mess, eyes red, desperation clinging to her like smoke. "We're behind on everything," she whispered. "You can't do this to us." I kept my voice calm low. "I've done enough, MOM. Logan's got his degree. You've got him." She called me selfish. But for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. I wasn't their lifeline anymore. I was finally my own. By mid-April, my life had settled into something that felt like rhythm. Trade school during the week, hands-on work at the shop with Walt on the weekends, and sketching late into the night. My hands were always dirty, my back always sore, but my mind was finally mine again. I built a prototype, a lightweight intake manifold based on one of my napkin sketches. Welded it myself after hours at the shop. It wasn't perfect, but when I ran it on the test bench, it purred like a dream. Walt saw it, squinted at it, and said, "Kid, this is pro level. You're wasting time not showing this off." And that sparked something. For the first time, I believed I might actually have something worth sharing. Then, out of nowhere, Logan's picture vanished from social media. Mom's text came in late one night. "Logan's in trouble. His firm went under. He lost everything." I didn't reply. The next day, another message. "Mortgage is overdue. We're about to lose the house." Still, I said nothing. Then Dad called. His voice was hoarse, desperate. "Jake, we're losing the place. Come home. We need you." I deleted the voicemail, but the crack in his voice stayed with me, like a nail I couldn't pull out. I pushed harder at the shop, pouring myself into a rush job and fine-tuning my prototype. Walt saw right through me. "What's eating you, kid?" I told him everything. Logan's fall, the house, the guilt. He listened, then pointed at my prototype. "You didn't break them, Jake. They did that to themselves. Focus on what you built." I nodded, but it wasn't easy. That Friday night, the garage door creaked open. It was Logan. No suit, just jeans and a hoodie, pale, eyes red. "I need to talk," he said quietly. I didn't say much, just wiped my hands and waited. He stepped closer. I screwed up the chair, the sign, all of it. I was an ass. I wanted to impress people who don't even matter. I forgot who got me there. I crossed my arms. "You didn't forget. You didn't care." He nodded, shame in his face I hadn't seen since we were kids. "I owe you everything, Jake." And I threw it away. "I'm asking now, not for money. Just help them." I didn't answer that night, just stood there, watching him walk away smaller than I'd ever seen him. The next morning, I drove to the house. Mom and Dad were boxing things up. I didn't come with a check. I came with information county aid programs, a loan advisor from the shop. "You're on your own now," I told them. "I'm not your fix." They didn't fight it. Maybe they finally understood. At the trade show a week later, I stood beside my prototype, shaking hands with shop owners, engineers, even a guy from Riverside Performance Auto. He offered me a small contract, a real start. Driving home, I passed the house. It looked smaller somehow, like it was finally someone else's weight. My phone buzzed. A text from Logan. "Thanks for the push. I am working on it." I typed back, "Keep going." And that was it. No grand reunion, no forgiveness speech. Just a step forward. For him, for me. And I didn't look back. So, that's my story. I spent 10 years carrying a family that never saw the weight I bore. I gave everything I had to help them rise, only to be laughed at, labeled the lazy one. But sometimes it takes getting torn down to find what you've buried inside yourself. I'm not angry anymore. Not really. Logan's trying now. My parents are learning to stand without leaning on me. Maybe one day we'll talk again, not out of guilt or obligation, but as people who finally see each other. As for me, I've got grease on my hands, sketches on my table, and a future I'm building bolt by bolt. That prototype, it wasn't just metal. It was proof that I'm not a failure, not a joke, not lazy. I'm a creator, a builder. And for once, I'm building something that's mine. If you've ever felt overlooked, unappreciated, or worn thin by the people you love, know this. Your worth isn't tied to their recognition. Sometimes walking away isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. Thanks for listening to my story. If it hit home for you, if you've been there, or you're still there, you're not alone. We've got more real stories coming your way about resilience, heartbreak, growth, and finding your own path. So go ahead, subscribe to the Life Stories channel. Hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Leave a comment and tell us where you are watching from. We read every single one, and we might just shout you out in the next video. Until then, keep going. You're stronger than you think.